All right, so welcome back to another interview, people. We have another guest. His name is Chris. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it's a very funny story how I how I met Chris. I was scrolling on Instagram looking for different people to connect with, and he actually popped up naturally. I didn't have to type in his name. It was a video about him breaking down the pillars about entrepreneurship on the entrepreneur side of videography, breaking down the difference between an artist and a business owner in the videography field. And guys, we wanted to bring that to you right here, right now, live with Chris himself. That way you guys can get some real insight and hopefully we can get more value out of this video and see where we can take this. So, Chris, can you give us a nice introduction of yourselves and tell the people who you are?
Yeah, so my name is Chris. People know me as Chris Cinematic. I pretty much got into the videography world about 4 years ago, give or take. And before I got into videography, I was actually working at an Amazon warehouse. So essentially, I wanted to get out of the 9 to 5 grind. And I knew that videography was pretty much that pathway to get out of that 9 to 5 grind. So I essentially spent 8 months to save up to buy a camera, to buy my computer, my desk, pretty much everything that I needed to get started in videography. And from there, pretty much kind of like took off. I started DMing pretty much 30 people per day. Hey, can I shoot you a free video? Can I do this for you? Can I do that for you? And then slowly but surely, people started responding. Hey, yeah, we can do, you can do this video for me, or you can do this cool edit for me. And essentially, I just started getting a couple free clients in the very beginning just to build up my portfolio. And then from there, I got really, really good on the videography side of things, but I wasn't really making money. So essentially, what I did, I was like, okay, shoot, I know I can make a lot of money, but I just need to start building the actual business infrastructures to start making money in this videography world. So that's when I created like my first offer, my first package, my first retainer. And I essentially just started charging for my services. Um, and then from there, slowly but surely, started just getting a couple of clients paying for my services. Word kind of got around that, like, hey, Chris was like the go-to guy for like short form content. And then we scaled from like, $1,000, $2,000 a month to like 10K within probably 6 months of me starting videography. And then from there, when I was making like 10K, I was pretty much doing everything myself. So I was doing all the editing, I was doing all the shooting, pretty much, completely being burnt out essentially. So from there, that's when I hired my first mentor, and he really taught me like systems. He really taught me on how to hire people, things like that. And that's eventually when I started implementing all these different systems. So how to acquire clients, how to hire team members, how to fulfill for clients, things like that. So from there, we essentially started establishing all these systems. And then next thing you know, we're scaling from like 10K to 30K, 30K to 50K. We grew our team from just me to about like 5 to 10 people. And now we're at the point where we have about 12 team members on our team, and we're working with about 20 plus clients every single month.
I think that's a very interesting story. Guys, that's how you actually tell a story. I love that. I love how you broke down the beginning all the way to the point of now to your success story. And that's always appreciated. I actually love
Of
that
course.
because that brings perspective. It brings some type of relatability to it, and I just love that story, man. So I'm glad you made that success journey and you saw those perspectives to even take the leap to go in the direction that you are now. So let's go a little bit deeper inside the conversation. So what was the first step? So I know sometimes they say that you got to create systems. So what was your system to start your journey to get to that final step?
Cool. So the first system that I really implemented was more of the actual client acquisition system. So most videographers and most creatives just rely on like referrals, word of mouth, networking events, which is fine, right? You can scale to 0 to 10K a month. But you can't really scale past that. It gets pretty hard, and there's a big bottleneck there because it's very unpredictable, right? So 1 month you'll get a couple referrals, you'll get a couple people interested because you went to a bunch of networking events, and then you have a really good month. But then the next month it goes, down to zero, right? So you go from like being super, super high to being very, very low. So it's very unpredictable and very inconsistent in that way. So you can't really build a foundation or scale the actual business. So the way to get a client is to build a system where you're generating leads every single day. And from there, you essentially just do the math, right? So if let's say, for example, you build a system, the one that I run right now is basically running paid ads. So what I do is I run paid ads to my ICP or my ideal client. And then from there, this is me calling out my exact type of prospect that I want to work with. So we work with a lot of coaches and consultants. So it's saying, hey, coaches, consultants, if you're struggling with content creation or you're not hitting the revenue marks that you want to, it's probably because you suck at content. It's probably because you don't know how to, create ideas, you don't know how to do hooks, etc. Right. So I create an ad targeting my ICP. And then from there, those people are contacting me, right? So I'm targeting them. Obviously, you have to pay for this. And then from there, they come into my world, they watch my content, they see my authority. And then from there, I start a conversation with them. Hey, thanks for following me, or hey, thanks for DMing me. I see that you're a coach and consultant. So tell me a little bit more how long you've been a coach and consultant for. Oh, I've been a coach for about 4 to 5 years. Okay, cool. How long have you been trying to do content for? Oh, I've been trying to do content for like the last year. I don't really know what I'm doing. Okay, cool. Like, what have you tried? Oh, I've tried this, or I hired this videographer. It didn't really work out. Okay, cool. So you don't really have a content strategy. Yeah, I don't really have a content strategy. And then from there, I essentially say, hey, cool, based on everything you're telling me, I can definitely help you out. Are you open to hopping on a call? And then from there, they book a call with me, and then that's where I pretty much present to them my services, how we can help them, my process, etc., and essentially close the deal. But I guess to kind of sum it up, or to kind of roadmap it, is you basically run an ad, a targeted ad to your ICP. You nurture them with your organic content, and that's another issue that most videographers or creators don't do, is that they don't post organic content, or they don't do content for themselves. So why would anybody pay you for a service that you don't even do for yourself? That's one. And then two, you don't really build an authority if you don't showcase yourself talking in front of the camera, just like how I'm doing right now. So you do have to get in front of the camera, show your authority, because we are in what I call like a trust recession. So it's harder for people to buy from people right now because of the trust recession that we're in. People are getting hit from ads, left and right. People are getting DM left and right. But the reason someone's going to work with you versus somebody else is because they trust you. And how do you build trust? Is by posting organic content, by posting reels, by posting your stories, showing the process, right? When you're at a shoot, show your process, talk about it, build that trust with your, ideal clients or people that follow you. So then by the time that they're in a buying state, they're ready to buy. So essentially we go from ad, which is top of the funnel, to your organic content, which is more like middle of the funnel. And then bottom of the funnel is essentially where you set them in an appointment and you book a call. But again, it's very, very predictable, because I know if I spend X amount of dollars on X amount of ads, I'm going to generate X amount of leads. And from these leads, this percentage are willing or open to hop on a call. And from those people that hop on a call, X amount are going to close. Right. And this is data that, I've accumulated over like, last 2 years. So I know my numbers of like exactly what I need to spend, or close rate, who are showing up, et cetera, et cetera. But essentially, this is a system like this where it's predictable, you can track it, and I know what's coming in month after month.
No, that's awesome. And I also want to say that Chris lives by his word. He does do that because a little funny story is I follow Chris on Instagram after we contacted him through Course Creator Academy just to connect. And the funny part is that he did the whole pipeline. He messaged me, nurtured me, being that real person that wanted to talk. And that's not to say that me and Chris will never do any business just because we're talking in a different form, but that's just real. Like he does that with everybody, and you got to be that way.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, sorry to cut you off. Crazy thing is, the conversation that we actually had wasn't even with me. It was with one of my appointment setters. So that's like another aspect of like that funnel, is that essentially like, you don't want to be in there manually yourself, having to have all these conversations with these clients or potential prospects. You want to have an appointment setter, which is essentially somebody who's in your DMs, having these conversations with these people, and also like adding them to like your CRM, or adding them to wherever you kind of track your pipeline, and essentially booking them into your calendar, and then they get paid on commission. So when I close a deal, my setter gets paid on commission. So he's incentivized to have as many conversations and to nurture as many people and book as many people into actual calls.
No, that's dope. I like that. I like that.
All right, once again, people, if you don't understand that this guy has everything figured out. Y'all ever heard
Yeah.
the term a business plan? That's how you walk in with a business plan right there. So I like that. By the way, sidebar, Chris, you are in multi-view right now, so we can see the record every function on the switcher.
Got it.
There you go. I didn't
Good
want
to
to
go.
continue. You had it. Okay. So with paid ads, I don't want you to go deep. I don't, you don't have to go all the way into it, but tell us the process of paid ads. Are you going through Facebook? Are you using Meta ads through Instagram? Explain to people
Yeah.
what ads are, because a lot of people hear ads, but they don't know how to get to ads.
Yeah, so to keep it simple, you have two parts of ads that you can do. There's one called the Facebook Ads Manager, which is a little bit more complex. It just has a lot more data points that you can collect. And then there's the Business Meta Suite, which is basically a watered down version of the Facebook Ads Manager. So the Facebook Business Suite is more simple. It's basically kind of like boosting a post on Instagram, but it gives you a little bit more options. So if you literally go on Google and type in Facebook Business Meta Suite, it's going to pop up, and then from there you can log into your account, and essentially you would pretty much pick one of your reels that you have. Essentially you would film, what I would recommend is filming an ad specifically for an ad, right? So you would have some sort of hook calling out your ICP. So let's say you work with like roofers, for example. Hey, if you're a roofer in the South Florida area and you're still relying on referrals, word of mouth to scale your roofing business, then that's why you're not scaling, right? What you need is a strategic, content strategy with paid ads to really scale your business. So if you're interested in this content system, DM me the word content. Right. So that's an example of like an ad where I'm calling out my ICP. I'm calling out their pain points, which is, hey, they're relying on outdated they're relying on outdated strategies to scale their business, which is usually Yelp, referrals, Google, things like that. And then I'm telling them, hey, the solution to that pain point is using ads and content. And then I'm telling them, hey, DM me a certain word, right? So that's the CTA at the end. So you would essentially film this ad, you would post it on Instagram, and then you would go to the Business Meta Suite, you would click boost, and then from there, if you're doing locally, you would pick your local area. Usually for the most part, you want to do anywhere from like 15 miles to 20 miles. And then from there, you'd pick the interest or demographic. So the interest for roofers would probably be, roofers, business and finance. Those are like pretty good interests. And then from there, you'd probably, a good starting rate or a good budget would be around $10 to $15 per day. And from there, you can easily start generating, anywhere from like 5 to 10 leads per day. Again, these aren't people that are just going to buy right away. You still have to kind of nurture them and have conversations with them. But essentially, with a budget of like $10 to $15 per day, you can get 5 leads, 5 to 10 leads per day, and essentially just start having conversations and closing deals.
I'm glad you touched the $10 to $15 per day, because I was gonna ask for the people that say I don't have the money for ads. What are some alternatives? And I'm glad you broke that down. Would you do that $10 to $15 throughout a month, or you would say how whatever fits someone's budget? What would you say?
Yeah, obviously, the more the merrier, right? The more money you spend on ads, the more people that are going to see it. And obviously, mathematically, if more people see your ad, there's more high chance that people are going to respond to the ad, DM you, follow you, etc. So ultimately, if you have a lower end budget, I would say $10 to $15 is like probably the bare minimum that I would start with. Anything less than that, I don't think it's worth it. But I would say the sweet spot, if we were talking monthly budget, I would say like $2,000 is like a good sweet spot to spend a month on ads. Thing lower, definitely possible, but a good sweet spot is like 2,000 a month.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, so is there like a certain formula when creating these videos? I know you need a hook, you need the meat, you need the information, and then you need that call to action. Is that the same system you run through, or is it something different that you do?
No, yeah, pretty much that. Kind of like I said, you have your hook, which is calling your ICP. Hey, if you're X person. So again, like I said, if it's a roofer, hey roofer in South Florida. So my ICP, which is a roofer in South Florida. If you're relying on outdated strategies like Yelp, Google reviews, word of mouth, referrals, then you're losing a lot of money on the table. So I'm calling out my ICP, what their pain point is. So whoever's watching that ad, so if they're a roofer and they're hearing that, oh, roofer in South Florida, they're relying on outdated strategies. They're like, oh, that's me. And then I'm telling them the solution. Hey, solution is going to be to run a paid ads and content system. And then from there, like, oh, that's the solution actually to my problems. He's right. I do need ads. I do need content. And then from there, I basically give them the CTA. So if this sounds like you, DM me the word whatever, or hey, follow me here on Instagram. So for the most part, you can run a follower ad, which is where they just go ahead and follow you, or you can run a DM ad, which is essentially just a DM you. But that's kind of the framework that we use for any of our ads.
I love how all this information tie into the main conversation of making yourself different from the artist and the business owner. So let's talk a little bit about that because a lot of people not really seeing that part of okay, having so much passion for that one piece of art that they quote unquote made, this one picture. They don't want to outsource no work because they feel like that no one else can do what they're doing and they're scared to outsource overall. So let's talk about that conversation. Where's your perspective to talk to the artist to possibly help them see the vision to become a business owner?
Yeah. So I love that conversation about the artist versus like business owner. So 100% do agree. Where a lot of videographers, creatives worry about the things that don't really matter. So like having the best camera, having the best edits, the best color grading, etc., which I think is fine, right? If that's your passion, that's something you want to do, by all means, go ahead and do it. If you want to make money, then it's close to impossible because at the end of the day, business owners or just people in general, when they pay you for a video, they're not paying you for the actual video, they're paying you for what the video will do for them. Right. And for the most part, that video is to generate leads. That video is to generate sales. That video is to have them as an authority in their market so they make more money. So ultimately, people are paying you money to make more money for their business. So they don't really care if it's the best video, if it's the coolest edits. It doesn't really matter if it's not generating them the results that they're paying you for or the results that they're expecting. So essentially, that's where a lot of videographers don't really understand. They think, oh, if I have a better camera, I'll make more money. If I edit better, I'll make more money. If I have better color grading, I'll make more money, which isn't always the case for the most part, right? Unless you're doing very like high-end cinematic projects. But again, even to get into that level takes years and years and years and years. So ultimately, if you want to make money as a videographer, ultimately the goal would be to create an offer where you're essentially giving people a tangible result with your actual content. So in return, they're willing to pay you for that service rather than just charging for like cool videos and not really giving people results. Again, you can make a couple $1,000s, but it's not going to be really sustainable or something that you can last for a very long time. So ultimately, I think the egos of videographers really get in the way. We're like, oh, I have to do everything, or I'm the best shooter, I'm the best editor, I'm the best at pretty much everything. So because of their ego, they're not just willing or open to delegating and actually building the systems, building the foundation. So I think the ego of a videographer is really what kind of keeps them stuck in that same like loophole for years and years and years. And ultimately, also the thing is where a lot of videographers want to figure it out themselves, right? So they don't really want to hire a mentor. They don't want to learn from people. They just want to kind of do everything themselves. Hey, I'll learn how to edit myself. I'll do this myself. I'll do that myself. And I've seen plenty, time and time again where videographers are in that loop. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're charging. They don't really have an offer that gives people a tangible result. So they're not making a lot of money. So they're ultimately, in the span of like 5, 10 years, just kind of making a couple $1,000, not really, flourishing or really getting financial freedom or time freedom. For me, when I built my business, I was like, when I built my business, I wanted to have time freedom and I want to have financial freedom. So that's ultimately what I built the systems for. That's ultimately why I built the teams for. And then now I'm at the point where if I want to do like really high end projects or if I want to do cinematic work, I can, right? Because I have the time freedom and I have the financial freedom where I can go ahead and do it. So my biggest tip to videographers is to do the opposite. Build the business first, build the foundations, build all that so you can buy back your time and have money. And then from there, you can focus on whatever you want to do. So if you want to go focus on movies, or if you want to go focus on films or cinematic pieces, or whatever the case is, now you have that time and money. You don't have to be stressing to go ahead and do that. So my biggest advice is start the business, make a ton of money, then focus on your passions.
No, that's really great advice because I've been in this now for roughly about 6 years, and I wish I would have had that advice before. I'm just now recently into 2024, coming into 2025. I know we're coming at the end, but just started switching over to actually running a business. So I think, like you said, we get caught up a lot in that loop where we think that we just have to run a 9 to 5 and it feels more like a job than it does an actual business because we think we all got to do it ourselves and we're the best at what we do and only we can offer the services that we have. So it's, that's definitely great advice to go ahead and structure your business, get those SOPs in place and make sure that you're running things the way with your values and you can get a team behind you because without a team, this is merely really impossible.
Yep, agree. And also, I guess touch on that a little bit. My bad. Yeah, I would say team is like everything as well. So, kind of touching back to that point of like videographers thinking they need to do everything themselves. You ultimately, I don't care if you're the best videographer, if you're the best editor, the best color grader, it doesn't really matter. If you want to make money in this business, you need a team, like plain and simple. So, at this point, like I said, we have about 12 plus team members. I work, in the actual like agency and stuff like that probably 2 to 3 hours a week because for the most part, my team takes care of everything, right? We have a project manager, social media manager, we have editors. They do all the communication with all the clients. The project manager makes sure that all the edits are being done, all the revision, things like that. So ultimately, I'm not in the day to day. And again, I got into videography to not just create a job for myself. I got into it to have a better life. And ultimately, again, I'm not going to let my ego get in the way of that. So I essentially, again, built the systems, built the teams. And now I'm at the point where, like I said, I work, 4 to 5 hours a week, but I'm making a ton of money.
Exactly, because that's one of the biggest parts of the conversation that it's kind of hard for artists to understand the fact that me and Cody had a conversation with one guy, and we was like, "Hey, what if you walk away?" Like just because he was actually a professional soccer player. Don't want to drop his name out there, but he was a professional soccer player, and he was on the fence of pursuing his passion of being a photographer and juggling in between being a professional soccer player. And on his part time, he was a photographer. Full time, his dream was to be signed to a team and etc. And he knows, being an athlete, you can't do that for years and years and years. Roughly, he probably had 5 more years left in his career, and photography had a little bit more longevity behind it. And we was also having a conversation of, "Hey, have you ever outsourced?" He was like, "No." I said, "How come?" He says, "Because no one can shoot like me." So it kind of went into a deeper conversation, and we was like, "Okay, let's take away the ability to have this quality work that no one else can possibly do. What if you just simply join a soccer team? Are you telling me you can't make any profit doing photography at all while you're on the soccer team?" And then that kind of like shook his world. He was like, "You know, you guys are right." Because it just opened the perspective of, hey, what if your back start hurting? Because photography actually it wears your body down. Videography wears your
Yeah.
body down. You use your back 99% of the time. You're going to feel like you don't want to do it. And it's a lot of times when me and Cody have a lot of shoots, and we just sit there and like, I don't even want to go. Call someone else. It's just having that ability and having that mindset, making sure life easy. Go to the movies. I told my friend he actually owned I know this is a sidebar, it's not about photography and videography. He actually owned a detailing business. I asked him, what is the lowest a detailer would take to do the same job that he's doing? He told me 150. This is the funny part. He charges 150 per car. So I said,
Uh,
so you're telling me no detailer will take your gig for at least $75 and you possibly raise your prices up to 250. He said no. So I get it was a whole conversation, but basically I'm gonna tell you guys the purpose of the conversation. I was telling him, I said, "Hey, you should try outsourcing because in order for you to scale your detailing business, you're not going to be able to wash every car or detail every car. You're going to have to be able to call someone else and contract someone else to help you get more cars in your arsenal and get more customers." And basically, the whole conversation was that you have to, ladies and gentlemen, you have to be able to step to the side and just relax, relax, think about it, take the emotions out of it. Because I've had a turning point inside of this where I was so emotional about the work. I didn't want to pass it over. And guys, it's okay because the client don't understand half the stuff that you guys understand. They don't understand ISO. They don't understand shutter speed. They don't understand aperture. So put it to the side. It really don't matter. Just make sure the work is done at the best of his ability with the people that you hire. Hopefully you don't just hire anyone off the street, of course. Be careful on who you hire because now that will crush everything. You will potentially lose the client, of course, if it's bad work. But you do want to pay attention to who you hire and make sure those people are people that you can be consistent with and they produce good work enough where you don't have to show up. Don't hire people where you have to be there as the supervisor. This is not your business where you go up the ranks to supervisor and the general manager. No, you are the CEO. So hire the team that you need. Go stay home. Like I said, just go walk your dog. Or go get your mind off of what's going on. Make sure you have a nice system where everyone understands the task and just follow up at the end. Delegate and walk away. That's one of my favorite systems. So that's one of my mottos of the day. And for this call, delegate and walk away. And Chris has mastered that to the T. So yeah, Chris, do you have anything to go deep on this conversation?
Yeah, I love what you said about like the clients don't care, and that truly is the case. Like clients truly don't care. They don't know what S-Log is. They don't know who's editing the videos. They don't care what camera it is. But essentially, again, they're paying for what the video is going to do for them. So it doesn't matter how it gets done, as long as it gets done and gives them the results that they're looking for. So I think, like you said, a lot of videographers are, they worry too much about the things that don't matter. The camera doesn't matter. whoever's editing the video doesn't matter. Even, I got to a point where I thought that I had to shoot all the videos myself as well. Like I had to be the person that went to the shoots, that was directing, doing this. My clients didn't really care. When I made that pivot, I was like freaking out, sent over another videographer, and he was like, dude, this guy was like absolutely amazing. Like you can send him whenever. So as long as you have like team members that are competent, you train them in the way that they should be shooting, etc. Obviously you should have some company values, right? So when they go out and shoot, they represent you and the company. But, for the most part, clients don't really care about the things that, most videographers care about. They only care about making money for their business, generating more leads, and essentially the things that you're caring about doesn't correlate to that. So if you're a videographer, the biggest thing, like I said, is just start caring about or start putting the inputs that are actually going to make you money, that are going to build the business, build the foundations, and ultimately just build the life that you truly want to live, right? Because you didn't get into this to work 60, 70 hours a week. You got into this to make money and to create a better life for yourself.
And let's not leave them the wrong way. You can work long hours, but make sure that they're hours towards the right thing. Let's not make sure they're not manpower, workhorse hours of you showing up all the time and doing all the work. Make sure you're doing things like Chris said, working on things that can actually generate more leads and pay attention to those things. And of course, they might not even take 60 hours to do those things. 9 times 10, that system is simply just using your money to make more money and then having a system when people actually show up. One of the biggest things I
Yeah.
always ask myself in all my systems, if I was to actually get the main result that I want, can I handle it? And that's something that I always ask myself. Suppose all of us on this call post a video right now. We get 100,000 people comment, whatever we want to comment, ready to sign up. Are we ready to handle it? And that's one of the things that you guys have to understand with your business. If you do want to make 100,000 in a month and it takes 20 clients hypothetically, can you handle that? That's one of the things that, because we all want that dream, we all want that passion, but we never ask ourselves and look in the mirror, can we handle that? Or is my foundation strong enough to it won't crash and burn the first day on the job?
Well, the thing also about handling it is if you don't have that team, you're not willing to let that ego go and say, hey, I need help. I need people who can be there. You definitely will never be able to handle it because you're going to have 20 clients and you can't be 20 places at once. Unfortunately, yet they haven't made that. So you're going to have a team regardless of your ego, regardless of how you feel about it. So you might as well just let the emotions go.
Yep, exactly. And to kind of touch that on a little bit too, in terms of like the systems and teams and all that, in terms of like, there's something called like the critical constraint in business. So essentially what that means is there's a bunch of things you can fix in the business, right? You can hire team members, you can fix the, operations, the fulfillment, the back end, the sales, all this stuff. But what is the true critical constraint in the business that if you were to essentially fix would double the business? So for the most part, with most videographers, you don't even have to worry about the systems. You don't have to worry about the team. You don't have to worry about any of that because their true critical constraint is just getting new clients. Right? So it's essentially generating new leads, building an actual system to generate these leads coming to you. So that is pretty much the first constraint that I would say for any videographer to really master is how do I generate more leads for my business, have more conversations, have more book calls. And then from there, once you're making a little bit more money, then go ahead and go to the next constraint, which is like fulfillment or actually would be sales. So it'd be like once you're getting these clients, you actually have to sell them on these offers. So make sure your sales process is good, your sales cycle is good, all that. And then from there, once you're actually closing clients, then go into the fulfillment, and then go into the teams. But the true critical constraint for most videographers is going to be just generating new leads.
That's the hump we all got to fight through, and you got to leverage Chris' strategy right here. Chris got the answer, guys. He got the answer. So, is there any closing remarks you would like to leave with the people? Tell us where we can find you, and tell us about some of the things that you have to offer to people that are out here that want to learn stuff like this.
Yeah, so I run a company called Video CEO. So that's essentially where we help videographers go from a glorified freelancer. So pretty much people that we're talking about today. So people that are doing everything themselves, don't really have systems, and transition them to an actual like business owner. So if you're a videographer and you're making less than 10 grand a month and you want to implement systems, you want to grow the business, you want to actually build the foundations to scale to 50, 60, 70, $100,000 a month, then Video CEO is for you. And I've been doing that now for about a couple of months and we've been seeing really, really great results. So we have guys that are coming in making 1,000, 2,000 within 45 days. They're hitting their first 10K month. And so it really is about hitting the actual critical constraints in the business. And just to kind of like give a summary or like my final remarks, if I had to give any like step by step blueprint for anybody, is first thing I would do is I would figure out your offer. So that's exactly what you're gonna service these people. What are the prices, retainers, etc. Something that is high ticket and something that gives people a tangible result. That's the first one. To create your offer. Second thing is build an actual client attraction engine. So this is how you're going to get clients. For the most part, I would say the best predictable way is going to be paid ads. Then the third thing is to create an actual sales framework. So how are you going to close these people? Do you have a pitch deck? Do you have a one-page document showcasing what you do? So I would create some sort of sales process. And then the fourth one is going to be to build the actual fulfillment side of it. So build the backend system. So if you get 5 clients, 10 clients, whatever it is, you can actually handle all these clients. And then the fifth one would be to hire team members. So start hiring team members to actually fulfill for pretty much all the projects or work that you have. But that's pretty much the step-by-step, I guess, roadmap for any videographer out there.
And I have one. I have kind of like a mic drop right here, guys. Don't go to any situation with a closed mind. Always be open to hear the information. Even if you don't join, you don't sign up, you don't do anything. Just make sure you hear the information and understand what your problem is and what challenges you have. And make sure you keep them in the back of your mind when you come into any situation, because I know a lot of us have a mindset we can do it on our own. YouTube University, all that, this, that, and the third. Guys, put that to the side. That is nothing but ego standing in the way, because people out here are actually taking the time to master certain things in life. And you just got to fall in line and sign up for them, or just be open to the information that's presented to you. So that's kind of my mic drop for today. Chris, we appreciate you for joining this podcast today. People, I hope you guys got a lot of value out of this. Chris has he didn't say much, but he got straight to the point, and he got the information that we needed. And guys, I hope you added value. Cody, thank you again, and see you on the next one.
Appreciate you guys.